Well, the Ladies Professional Golf Association, or the LPGA, is being accused of body shaming players with new dress code guidelines. Controversial dress codes are in the spotlight right now, with the House of Representatives facing backlash for turning away female reporters from the Speaker's lobby for wearing sleeveless dresses or open-toed shoes. The recent guidelines from the LPGA echo similar restrictions, barring, quote, plunging necklines and skirts, skirts, and shorts that don't cover a, quote, bottom area. Anya Alvarez is especially close to this controversy. She's a former professional golfer on the LPGA. She's played golf for 20 years and has competed in 2 U.S. Opens. Anya now writes on gender and politics and sports and joins us now to discuss her latest piece on the dress code guidelines. Anya, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You bet. So what's new about this updated dress code?
There's really nothing new. It was the same dress code that was implemented when I was playing on tour. I think they just sent out reinforcements because some rookies didn't understand the rules, from my understanding from talking to players and a couple representatives at the LPGA, and it was really just sent out for clarification.
So why now then? Why send out this clarification with these new guidelines?
From my understanding, they actually sent it out a few weeks ago and it just suddenly got leaked. And so because of the timing of when the dress code was leaked in correlation with the women playing at Donald Trump's course at the U.S. Open last week, I think it just created more controversy than had it been released last year.
So the LPGA actually responded to the backlash, and they're saying, and I'm quoting here, it's much ado about nothing. And it said that it's not a regression, but simply an update to an existing policy, and that there will be no discernible difference to what women will be wearing on tour. So do you seem to agree with what they're putting out, that people are making a lot over nothing?
Yeah, I think there's bigger issues that the LPGA faces. I think that,
what would those issues be? What do you think the focus should be when you're talking about gender and the sport?
Well, I think we can just turn to the media and the fact that this is getting way more coverage than the fact that the women played in the U.S. Open last week. You know, the women work really hard out there and they never get the due coverage that they deserve for how much they accomplish out on the golf course.
Yeah, I have to say, I was just surprised across the board, the coverage of women's golf over the weekend. It was pretty incredible what you saw. Also an amateur golfer getting up to where she did. But we don't hear a lot. And why do you think that is? Because, you know, when women's soccer comes around and we see it with the World Cup, it's always so much fun to watch. But is there not enough interest in the American public for watching women's sporting events?
I think it's due just to the media of playing into this idea that men are more interested in sports. So they broadcast men more. And it's just going to take time to break the stereotypes that women's sports aren't as interesting to watch. And when the media starts to take the lead in covering women equally and fairly, and not just when controversy comes up, then I think women are going to find it much easier to get the respect that they deserve for their athletic achievements.
What would you like to see if you could reform and change the way people view golf as a former coach and player? What would you say?
I would say go to an LPGA event. You would be surprised, one, at how friendly the players are, how open and receptive they are to talking to the fans. They will give you tips. You can learn so much from the women and how they play golf. And really, I think people are just missing out by not paying attention to women in sports in general. They may have differences in how they play sports, but there's something that we can all learn from them.
And so when it comes back to this topic of this controversial dress code, you say what?
I say to get better coverage of women in sports instead of talking about what they're wearing on the golf course.
Okay, Anya Alvarez, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.